Okay, welcome back to Place on the 55 podcast. We're through week 10 and officially past the halfway mark of the season, Jess.
That went quick.
And week 10 was another tough one for you, finishing 1-3. I came out at the end of Sunday 2-2. On the year, that puts me now at 21-19.
21-19 is what I got, yeah. And then I'm kind of the reverse of that at 19-21.
And so there we are, 40 games. Your goal of hitting 65% for the season, though, it's a stretched goal now. Like, you're going to have to get 28 of the next 36 outcomes correct. What takeaways did you have from week 10 there, Jess?
To start off week 10, we had a very rare tie with Saskatchewan at Ottawa, tied at 22 apiece. And Ottawa was favored by 1.5, and we both lost that one. That's what a sneaky little 1.5 of a point favorite will do to you.
Because we both bet on Ottawa in that game, Saskatchewan won with the 1.5 point spread. And even though it was a tie, the reason we lost is because they got the extra 1.5 points. And so they technically came away as the victor.
That's correct, yes.
Interesting. First tie of the year. Sometimes you go a whole season and don't see any.
Yeah, you usually don't. It's pretty rare.
The rematch between Calgary and Toronto on Friday night seemed to be a bit of a snooze fest. It barely kept me engaged. How about you?
I tend to agree on that one. It was, not the craziest Friday night football game that CFL's ever seen. Calgary was barely favored, and I took them, and you got that one. Toronto looked pretty impressive.
Mayer struggled. I don't know about that guy.
Yeah, I don't know about him either.
Speaking of struggles, how about Hamilton once again just completely crapping the bed?
For you, that is. I can't believe it. This is probably the best game of the week in the CFL, as your Tabbies were 7.5 point dogs going into McGill. And while the Tigercats kept it close to the spread, they only lost by 10 points. And so the Owls covered the spread by just a mere 2.5 points. Man, you just lost that one. Just barely.
I know. I was hopeful until this week that maybe the Tabbies were going to somehow find their way into the playoffs. No, they are going to finish dead last in the East. The East in general is kind of crummy. The only team that has a decent record is the Alouettes. And across the league, everybody else is at best 5-2-1, 5-3-1, 5-4. Like, it's kind of mediocre. Like, you and I have been bouncing around 500 in our betting all season.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a big reason why is because the league in general is bouncing around 500, except for the Owls.
Yeah, except for the Owls and maybe except for Edmonton. But I think that speaks that there's good parity in the CFL.
3 big exceptions.
Yeah.
2 dogs in the Hamilton Tigercats and the Elks, and then 1 star in the Alouettes, who on Saturday completely owned Hamilton. Speaking of ownership, how about Sunday? Watching Ford own the Lions and having him go out to injury, and then the Lions kind of finding a way to shut down McLeod Bethel-Thompson. The Lions look poor right now.
They do. They've only scored 16 points in the last 2 games. I mean, those are not CFL numbers. They lost to the worst team in the CFL. I don't care how hot Edmonton rather looks. You expect more out of them anyway. Speaking of that Lions game, before we get on to next week, I noticed that the over-under on the game was 48.5 points, and that total came to 49. It just amazes me. Like, we don't do the over-under, because it kind of seems like it's a 50-50 flip of the coin. But seriously, they nailed that within 0.5 point.
Well, let's just go right into next week then, because I think I'm done talking about last week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who's our sponsor?
Unfortunately, we don't have a sponsor this week, John.
What happened? Yeah. We're the fastest growing podcast specializing in sports betting of the CFL in Canada.
I think our sales guy went on a canoe trip or something. Going into this upcoming week, we got Ottawa at Calgary. Calgary favored by 2.5. I like Meyer to get it back together. I mean, he's got like hot and cold streaks. Yeah, I'd like the Calgary's, at least win by a field goal, and that's all you need.
Yeah, I think last week Brown was out, wasn't he? And that's why Ottawa didn't really perform very well in that game.
We're picking these so early, and that's another thing I'm going to mention about a game coming up, is that, at the moment we're dealing with opening spreads on a Monday. That's just like going to a casino. You place a bet on a team on a Monday. They don't give a crap if the quarterback gets injured in practice on Wednesday or breaks up with his girlfriend and or whatever the case may be. So we're locking in on the Monday, and well, it is what it is.
I like Ottawa. I think Ottawa is going to win. I just don't have any faith in Calgary. And even better than that, if I'm right, I'm going to put a little more distance on you this season and increase that spread in our win totals. So yeah, I'll go Ottawa, and the mediocre Rough Riders, who have the best record in the West, are up against the Owls. And let me guess, you're going to go Owls, right?
I am. They're favored by just 2.5 points, which is just a field goal, going into Taylor Field, which is concerning because the Riders have had a great record at home. The Owls look like they class of the CFL right now, and I think they can go up there and beat the Riders by a field goal.
Yeah, the Riders have always had a really strong showing at home, and they've got an amazing defense. They had a poor showing last week, but they're bouncing back. Rough Riders are going to win this game, and if you're going to give me 2.5 points to the Riders, who are at home, and they always do well at home, that's like Christmas in August, like someone once said.
Yeah, be careful. You be careful what you get for Christmas in August. So I got the 2 favorites so far, and you got the 2 dogs, but they're only 2.5 favorite dogs, so that's not too bad.
Speaking of dogs, what about Saturday? We got dog versus dog, elk versus tiger cat. Which dog will be the doggiest of these two?
So the Elks are favored by just a mere 1.5. Now, remember that 1.5 was made a huge difference in game 1 of last week. And at the time of this recording, we don't know the true status of Trey Ford. Coming up on Saturday, if Bethel Thompson does start, he should be up for the game of his life to create maybe a little bit of quarterback controversy in Edmonton. And if Trey Ford somehow starts on Saturday, I like Edmonton's chances even more. So I'm taking the Edmonton, and they're going to give me a 3.5 point.
Ford's the guy, and if he's healthy, they got to put him in, and they got to continue to just chug along with that Ford train. You're going to hate this because whatever I do with the Hamilton Tigercats ends up being the wrong thing. And I'm agreeing with you, Jess. I'm going to Edmonton here, so you may be poisoned.
Yeah, well, at least we're taking the same poison, so we're going to end up even on that one no matter what happens. Might mess up my, hopefully, 4-0 week, but we'll see.
Well, hey, if you go 4-0, that means I'm going to go at least 1-3 now. Because my hunch is, if we're looking at this 4th game on Sunday between the Bombers and the Lions, who hopefully can score at least 1 point and maybe get 5 first downs this game, who are we going with?
Well, the Lions are 3.5 point dogs. It's not surprising after their 2 horrible performances in the last couple of weeks. Now, how strong is Winnipeg? That's the question. I had a hard time with this game. There's going to be a good crowd at BC Place. They haven't been there in almost a month. I'm going to take the Lions. I know this might be stupid. They're expecting a pretty good crowd at BC Place. They actually just hired Fred Penner to sing at halftime, and they've built it up as a family day event, and it's at 4:00 on Sunday afternoon. I'm not sure how much my 12-year-old knows about Fred Penner, but I sure like him. And hopefully the Cats come back and beat the Bombers. How's that?
The Lions are going to win this game. They have to have a bounce back. They haven't won a game since July. Somebody on that team's going to step up if VA isn't going to be starting. We're getting an extra 3.5 because they are so shaky. But they're shaky right now. They're a strong team, and they're going to show their winning ways again, and it starts this weekend, and hopefully carries right through to that Victoria game that's coming up in just a couple weeks.
Oh, I was looking at going to that, but it sold out so quickly. So the only team left are the Argos that are they have their bye week this week. Going into week 12 next week, Kelly will be technically eligible to start practicing with the team and eventually suit up for them. Maybe he's not going to start in 2 weeks' time from now, but I could see him starting in 3 weeks from now because he hasn't been allowed to practice with the team. I mean, he might be running around practicing by himself or with some friends or maybe with his uncle Jim, but you're not out there with the team.
Flash forward to November. Chad Kelly leads the Argos to the 111th Grey Cup.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Toronto's going to make it to the playoffs.
Oh, for sure.
It seems pretty clear today that the Montreal Alouettes are going to the Grey Cup, and I don't know who's going to stop them.
You don't know. I mean, things can change in the CFL pretty quickly. There's upsets all the time. Montreal's got to be the odds-on favorite to go. But we're only at the halfway point. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, week 11 right around the corner. We got no mail this week. We had a couple comments on some of our posts, which were good. Thanks for sharing your views. Keep it coming. Like to see engagement out there by our listeners. If you want to write the show, you can. It's placed on the 55pod@gmail.com. Anything else to say, Jess?
I think we're good. Looking forward to week 11 in the CFL.
I'm looking forward to going 4-0 and having you go 2-2. Talk to you next week.
You got it.